What's up, Patriots? Leave comments if you want to. I probably won't check them. If you want a response from me, leave a video comment. Just wanted to get on here and talk a little bit about labor unions, because this was something that up until recently I didn't really know the role of labor unions, or if they were good, if they were bad. I know a lot of people belong to labor unions and that sort of thing. So you hear of labor union, you hear of collective bargaining, you think of people that are just getting together for a common cause to promote better wages or better working conditions or that sort of thing. It seems harmless, right? But there are some bad things about it. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert about it, but this is just my observations, my opinions on the matter. So labor unions allow for a collective, a group of people to come together to bargain collectively, collective bargaining. So basically you have a group, let's say Boeing, right in my backyard. You got these groups of people that get in there and they join a labor union. The union has a lot of power. They pay money, they pay their labor, their union dues, and that money then is used in some cases to help support the actual labor workers, but in most cases, and most commonly, labor union dues are used for political purposes. Your union leaders turn around and use that money to say lobby congressmen and for favorable legislation for their not necessarily for their workers, but for the companies that they're working for and for the unions themselves. You see this a lot. You saw this up in Wisconsin with the teachers going on strike because there was a labor union issue up there. Now, labor unions in the private sector are one thing. You definitely want to try and control. Maybe not necessarily control is not the right word, but you want to be aware of what labor unions are doing, and you want to know what labor unions to support. And if you're actually working for a union, it's good to be active in that and to be an activist in your union. Otherwise, you have no idea what they're doing with that money that they take out of your paycheck automatically. Enough on that. But the labor union I'm more worried about is the public sector labor unions. That is actually growing exponentially. Recently, I just saw this on a YouTube video. I'd be more effective if I could share the links, but recently public sector labor unions, that is the labor unions that people are joining when they work for bureaucracies or when they work for the government, those actually have grown exponentially to the point where they now outnumber private sector labor unions. So you actually have more people working in the public sector that are covered under labor unions than you do in the private sector. Well, you might think, well, okay, what does this all mean? Well, what it means is you get these government bureaucracies that are now covered by labor unions. Back in the 40s that was almost unheard of, but now you have the majority of people working in these government bureaucracies that are in labor unions wanting to get better wages, wanting to get more time off, wanting to get better working conditions, wanting to make sure that they don't get fired, which is a big one. So what does that do to you and me? What does that have to do with the taxpayer? Well, simply put, we're paying for their labor dues, for their union dues, and we're also paying for their increased wages. We're also paying for their increased vacation days. Me and you, we're paying for that. And it's not a good thing. Take teacher unions, for example. It's fairly common in the U.S. where a parent will have a teacher that maybe they don't agree with, or a superintendent that they don't agree with, or something at the school that they don't agree with. Something happens, either their child's getting unfavorable treatment at school, or who knows. It's a myriad of things. But if a parent wants to wants to pursue action against one of these teachers or against a school district or something like that, it's almost impossible because of the labor unions. You have to basically have a team of lawyers to be able to take on these labor unions because they got deep pockets and they got all the right connections. I mean, it's almost impossible to go after somebody that's a teacher, to get a bad teacher fired, to do any of that sort of thing. Now, if you take labor unions out of it, it's much easier. Not only that, their wages, they don't have the ability to collectively bargain, which means that their wages are going to be, down at a more reasonable level. Now, to blame this all on labor unions would be unfair, because with the Department of Education and with No Child Left Behind and that sort of stuff, the government interference is what creates this this cycle. Okay, so by government getting involved in education, a couple of bad things happen. You get indoctrination as far as the learning is concerned. You also have the unwillingness for schools to provide a better learning situation for the kids, because when the government gets involved, it reduces competition, and when you have a reduction in competition, then you have no incentive for the school to better their programs or to hire better teachers or to get rid of bad teachers. And if you combine that with these teachers being covered by labor unions, it becomes almost impossible. It really does. So teachers, public school teachers, are covered under labor unions, and they count as one of those public labor unions, public sector labor unions. So they're government workers that are covered under a labor union. If you and I as a taxpayer doesn't like the work that one of our employees, because that's really who they are, the government works for us, so they are our employees. If we don't like the way that one of our employees are doing their job, we should have the right to go about either removing them from that position or reducing their wages, see some sort of action taken against them in case that there were any wrongdoing. So I'm not saying that everybody that's in a labor union is bad. I'm saying that public sector labor unions specifically are not a good thing, because it inhibits us, the taxpayer, from getting these people removed should they need to be removed. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to try and reverse this, but I believe if you end the Department of Education, which Ron Paul plans on doing, you take away that incentive for labor unions to be there, because you take away the government interference. Okay, the wages are naturally going to come down. All right, people aren't going to be able to afford to pay their union dues, and I'm just using education as an example. This goes across the board. They're not going to be able to pay their union dues any longer. The union's not going to have as much power. They're not going to be able to push for the legislation that works for them. It's just going to put a strain on them, and that's simply by removing government from the scenario. I mean, this is true for education. This is true for other bureaucracies. This is true in the medical field. So if you remove government interference in these key industries, why are we number 26th in the world in education? We shouldn't be. We're the greatest nation in the world, filled with the best and brightest, as you can obviously see. So why are we number 26 in the world? It's because our central government is interfering with our education system. Not only that, it's trying to tell us what we need to learn, what we need to know, and that's obviously not working. So we remove the government interference with education. That creates a much harder scenario for labor unions to organize and to actually fund themselves, and subsequently fund lobbyists to Congress, and that's the most effective way to see education turn around in this country, is to legalize competition in education. Make it easier for private schools to compete with public schools. Take away those basically just the money that the government's giving to the public school systems, and let the people decide. I mean, the people have the power to choose where their kids go to school. Legalize competition in education, and you're only going to see our standing in the world as far as education is concerned rise dramatically, and that's what's going to happen. So yeah, that's, I don't know if I'm going to do another video today. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. It just depends on what inspires me. So leave comments. Please leave video comments. Nobody's done that yet, so I'm going to make a big deal when the first person does. But anyway, you know, leave comments. Probably not going to check them. Patriots, keep doing your thing. Peace out.